Hello, Mooncrafters. Welcome. This is Craft of Moon. As some of you may already be aware, I am teaching a class on the 5 cosmic catalysts for your best year yet in 2026. And as I've been working on the slides and the course material for that, I have come to realize that in order to prevent Mars from getting shortchanged at the beginning, I think I need to put out a video here that talks about some of the philosophical backgrounds and talks about how the approach to the class is going to work so that we don't need to tie the first class up with some of this more preliminary material. It's good material, but I just think because we have 5 classes and 5 archetypes, it's best to give the same amount of time for each class and each archetype. So in this video, I would like to talk a little bit about the philosophical background. I was out walking the dog this morning, and as I was ruminating and putting my thoughts together, I recorded some notes around what I wanted to make sure people connected with before the course began. And this way, if you have any thoughts about it or any questions, you can also chat with those in the comments, and we can maybe answer some questions if there's any questions before the course begins. And today is New Year's Eve. It's the 31st of December. It's the last day for getting a choose your own tuition rate. So I would encourage you, if you have not already signed up for the class, to head over to Synchronicity University and sign up for that class. You can choose your own tuition rate for as low as $5 per class. So for the whole course of 5 classes, we're looking at $25 as a very low, reasonable amount of money to pay for 5 high-quality educations on astrological archetypes and how to utilize those for your year to come. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up a slide presentation. And on that slide presentation, you'll notice at the bottom of each slide is the URL that you can go to for Synchronicity University to register for my class. And I'll point that out a couple times throughout the slide presentation, but just wanted to make sure that you're aware of it now, that if you're interested, you can go straight to the URL and sign up for that class at any time during this presentation. And I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you there as can make it. We're really looking forward to making 2026 the best year possible for everybody. So let me go ahead and pull up this PowerPoint presentation here. All right. So I wanted to kind of talk about this as a way to prepare for embarking on the journey that we're going to be going through with the 5 cosmic catalysts, and just kind of invite you into this as a space for reflection. This is more of a philosophical background and underpinnings for the course rather than any technical details around astrology or what's going on in the transits right now. So before we talk about the specific energies of Mars, the archetypes I'll be talking about are Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus. Let's just step back and take a look at this. And one of the things I was thinking about is just the era that we live in, the times that we live in, and how deeply on a path of technological advancement we've been in human history over the last hundreds of years. And because our smartphones and our space telescopes and our computing power are so strong, we often fall into a trap. It feels like, to me at least, and I don't want to necessarily put this on you as the audience, the viewers, if this isn't you, but I just tend to notice that there seems to be this intellectual trap that we make the mistake kind of collectively, that we look back on those who lived 1,000, 3,000, even 5,000 years ago, and we view them as somewhat primitive or superstitious, and assuming that they were just fumbling around in the dark until modern science turned on the lights. I know that this can kind of be the view that is portrayed by a lot of modern science institutions or kind of veins of thoughts. But this really isn't the case. This is not real. There's no real reason for us to think that at the dawn of astrology, the dawn of sky divination, that human beings were any less mystical or any less intelligent or any less profound than we are today. In fact, if we look at the historical record, we see really the opposite. We see that the ancients possessed a really high quality ability to pay attention to and focus on the depth of synthesis that we have largely fragmented and forgotten. They didn't see the world as a collection of separate mechanical parts. They saw it as a living, breathing whole. This was the anima mundi, the living universe, the living cosmos, the living world. To understand astrology, we first need to suspend some of this modern arrogance that we have more answers or better answers, or the way that we think about the answers that we have is better than they were in the past. And just kind of step back and kind of give some kudos to the ancients who really laid the groundwork, even for modern science to be where it is today. So when we study the history of human thought, we find something remarkable. There was a specific era, roughly spanning from 3000 BCE down to about 500 BCE, where the world experienced an absolute expansion of philosophical and spiritual brilliance across continents and completely different cultures. Humanity was collectively waking up to the mysteries of existence. I just kind of pause here again to just point out that at the bottom of the slide is the URL where you can go to sign up for this class. We'll be covering all the archetypes of Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus in this class. So please head on over there and sign up. This time between 3000 BCE to 500 BCE was the age of the great sages, the mystics. This was when we had the first skywatchers. These were people who were deeply philosophical. They weren't just looking at the stars to figure out when to plant crops, even though that was a part of it. When to go to war, yeah, they did that. The kings wanted that kind of information. But they were ultimately looking at the sky to understand the architecture of the soul. They understood that the movements of the heavens were not just random. They were a language. The tradition of astrology that we are stepping into during this course has deep roots in this fertile soil. It was born in a time when science, religion, art, and magic were not four different subjects, but four different dialects of the same language. The people of this time understood that you could not separate the observer from the observed. They knew that the consciousness of the person looking at the star was just as important as the star itself. Just like in modern science, how we know in quantum physics that once we observe or measure a particle, then the wave function collapses. We either know its location or its velocity. We only know a certain amount of information, and all the other stuff, like if its location is known but its spin is not, or its spin is known but its location is not, or these kinds of things. This is the lineage that we're stepping into. These skywatchers, these mystics understood that this inseparability was fundamental to our experience of the universe. And it's a lineage that demands that we look at the why just as closely as we look at the how. The specific philosophical direction that this course is rooted in is the Hermetic tradition. Astrology is deeply rooted in the Hermetic tradition, especially the Western astrology, but even the Vedic astrology came from those roots. This is the esoteric space where Western astrology truly lives and breathes. And when we speak of Hermeticism, we are referring to a body of wisdom attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, or the thrice great. Whether Hermes was a man, a god, or a lineage of teachers is less important than the legacy of wisdom left behind. The core philosophy of this tradition deals with one massive central idea: unity. It is the exploration of the unity between the outer world and the inner world. It is the study of the seamless bond between spirit and matter. In our modern lives, we experience these things as separate. We go to church or to meditate for spirit, and then we go to work and pay our bills for matter. We treat our inner feelings as totally distinct from the outer environment. But the Hermetic background of astrology challenges that separation. It suggests that the outer and the inner are not two different things, but rather two sides of the same coin. It teaches us that the cosmos is one giant interconnected organism. And this brings us to one of the most famous yet often misunderstood documents in mystical history, the Emerald Tablet, which is part of the body of knowledge of the, it's not in the Corpus Hermeticum, but it is part of the body of knowledge in Hermetic thought. And again, before I go on, just pointing out again that the link down below is where you can go to register for the class that I will be teaching on the 5 archetypes that will be rooted in the philosophy that I'm discussing today. So please head on over there today, January 31st, at least here in the US. I'm not sure when the actual cutoff in terms of GMT, so we might you might have a little bit of leeway tonight over New Year's or something, but head on over. If you're interested in taking this class, head on over to the link and get signed up, because today is the day when you can still choose your tuition rate and get as low as $5 a class. The Emerald Tablet is the foundational text of the philosophy that so many modern people have come to know and understand. It has been translated dozens of times over thousands of years by Newton, by alchemists, by scholars. And for this course, I've gone and I've looked at all those different translations, and I don't know Arabic or Latin, so I couldn't go and do any of my own, kind of like original translations. But I did look and compare a number of the translations, not every translation, because I don't know all of them that are out there, but 5 or 10 of them. And I kind of synthesized a kind of like a aggregation of those translations that reflect the a level of clarity that I am trying to bring to the philosophical underpinnings of this class. So it's a synthesis that I created from the translations. So it's not really a translation of translations, but it's like, taking the translations, looking at them, understanding them, and trying to really determine what the collection of those are pointing to. And then that's what I've created, the synthesis. And so I'm going to read a little bit from that synthesis that I have developed. So give me just a second to pull that up. All right, so I've got it here. This is the absolute truth, certain and most real, without any shadow of falsehood. That which is far above in the celestial vault is mirrored precisely in the terrestrial depths below. This is where we get the as above, so below. And that which dwells within the secret heart is seen perfectly in the vastness of the outer world. In this reflection, the miracles of the single reality are accomplished, for the great universe and the individual self are but one continuous cloth. just as all phenomena arise from the silent contemplation of the one source, so all things are born through the adaptation of this single essence. The father of this essence is the radiant sun of clarity, and its mother is the luminous moon of stillness. These two are the twin pillars of our existence, existing both as the stars that guide the heavens and the internal tides that govern the soul. The vital breath has carried this essence in its womb, and the grounded earth has acted as its guardian and nurse. This is the source of all perfection throughout the entire universe, and its power remains complete only when it is anchored into the density of our lived experience. With patient wisdom and subtle discernment, you must disentangle the fire from the earth and the light from the heavy. This is the separation of the refined spirit from the unworked form, a process that must be conducted with the utmost gentleness. The power ascends from the ground of the body to the heights of the spirit, and then descends once more to the earth, gathering into itself the sovereign strength of both the heights and the depths. In this moment, and in this movement, the external world and the internal self become a single luminous transparency. By this means, you shall possess the radiance of the whole world, and all obscurity and confusion shall flee from your presence. This is the force of all forces, for it overcomes every subtle thought and penetrates every solid matter. In this way was the world itself brought into being, and through this same process, marvelous works are achieved. To understand this is to hold the three parts of all wisdom: the mastery of the physical form, the energetic breath, and the luminous mind. Through the contemplation of this operation, the radiant inner sun and the cool inner moon are brought into perfect equilibrium, reflecting the same eternal union found in the heavens above. So that, again, that is a synthesis of probably 5 or 10 different translations. And you can just Google that. You'll find it easily, the Emerald Tablet. And, just look at the different translations. They're really beautiful, and they all kind of emphasize a slightly different point. And what I pulled together in that synthesis was the basic components of the script, of the transcript, that are supportive of the philosophical underpinnings for the class that I'll be teaching here in the coming year, in January, in a couple days. It starts on January 7th. So please, again, the link is right there on each slide. So feel free to head on over and sign up. Choose your own tuition rate is going on right now. All right. So the text of this tablet describes a process of alchemy that applies to the stars, but it also applies to the human soul. And this is critical for us. It talks about ascending and descending. It talks about receiving the power of the superiors, the planets and the stars, the heavens and the inferiors, the earth, the body, the matter. And the goal of the astrologer, the goal of the student of this course, is to stand in the middle of that flow. We are the vessel where the powers of heaven and earth meet. We are not just analyzing the planets, we are participating in this constant cycle of ascent and descent and integrating the wisdom of the sky into our reality here on the ground. From that text comes the phrase that you have heard 1,000 times, as above, so below. That's the simplified way. And it's a great way. I read the text and there's a lot there. It's got some flowery language, and all the translations do. The easy thing to remember is as above, so below, or as within, so without. The There is more subtlety there to the whole piece, so I definitely recommend looking it up. The Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus. It's a very old piece of work. Read many of the translations and really get a feel for it. But, when we're talking about as above, so below, that is the script. That is the text that we're talking about. It's like it's a key phrase, which is designed to clue you into the whole text. And so if you don't know the background of that text, if you've only heard the phrase and, you don't really know the background, again, just listen to what I read or go back and do some of your research and read several of the different translations because they are beautiful. But what I really want to unpack is what it means and before we move on. And it's not just a catchy slogan. It is the declaration of symmetry. It is the fundamental principle of correspondence upon which astrology has its foundations. Astrology is a system of correspondences. It's not just looking at the planets, but we see the components of element, the components of modality, the components of sign, house. Each of these has different meanings associated with it. And as we extend beyond that, we get more and more correspondences. There's correspondences that connect the tarot with astrology. There's a lot of different correspondences out there. So this idea of symmetry and the idea of correspondence is built into this phrase and this teaching of as above, so below. It's not necessarily saying that the planets are down here pulling puppet strings and forcing you to act. It's not saying as above, so caused below. It's saying as above, so below. It implies a reflection, a mirror. And the patterns we see in the macrocosm of the galaxy are reflected within the patterns that we see in the microcosm of the human soul and the human mind and consciousness and in the psyche of our human experience, the collective consciousness. This is the key to the entire course that I'll be teaching. When we study the cosmic catalysts, these 5 that I'll be bringing up, we are studying this mirror. And really, when we study any of the planets, I just happened to pick these 5 because I feel there's a strong narrative to talk about for this coming 2026. But really, when we talk about any planets, we are studying the mirror that planet brings for us. We look at the large things, the orbits of the planets, the orbits of the physical orbs and spheres out in space. And we do that to understand the small things, our anxieties, our ambitions, our loves, and our fears, the motivations of ourselves and those around us. The universe is holographic. The whole is contained in every piece. And if you can understand the movement of Mars above, you can understand the movement of drive and conflict within you. So if this wisdom is so ancient and so profound, why do we have such a hard time grasping it today? The answer lies in history, in science, in the way we tell the history of science. And with the age of enlightenment in the West specifically, I do put a big caveat on that, because even though it's called the Age of Enlightenment, definitely there are other philosophers and schools in the East and in the Indian subcontinent that were already had surpassed, what had come about in the Age of Enlightenment. So there is a little bit of grandiosity in the name of it, but that's what, in Western history, we call it the Age of Enlightenment and this scientific revolution. And in this, humanity made a trade. We gained incredible knowledge of the physical world, but we lost the metaphysical connection. Astronomy stepped in and took ownership of the stars, and we lost the focus on the metaphysical part of that. We started focusing entirely on measurements, and we wanted to know the mass, the chemical composition, the gravity, the forces, all these pieces of physics and the precise orbital mechanics of the material forms. We became obsessed with the hardware of the universe, and in doing so, we stripped the cosmos of its software, its soul, its meaning, and its consciousness. We deviated from the metaphysical understanding of the spheres, and we stopped seeing them as living symbols and started seeing them as dead rocks. This was a necessary phase of human development, obviously, because we went through it, but it has left us spiritually hungry, and we have excellent maps of the territory, but we have forgotten how to walk the landscape. It's important to be specific about this distinction. If we don't, we run the risk of confusion when we start talking about planets in this class. When an astronomer talks about a planet, they are talking about the isolated phenomenon of matter in space. They are talking about an object external to us. It is out there. It has nothing to do with you. It is cold, distant, and indifferent. Astrologically, we rely on that object. We rely on the material form. We need the physical planet, like Mars, to exist. We rely on the conditions of that matter to understand the geometry, to understand the mechanism of time, the mechanism of space itself, of the solar system. But if we stop there, if we think that astrology is just study of how a rock affects a human body through gravity or radiation, we are missing the point entirely. That is a materialistic view of a mystical practice. And we're not exploring the external phenomenon in isolation. We are exploring the relationship. Now let's look at the other end of the spectrum. In the 20th century, brilliant minds like Carl Jung brought the archetypes back into the conversation. He recognized that the gods of mythology were actually aspects of the human psyche. Fast forward to today, and we have modalities like internal family systems, IFS, and parts work. We look at the internal aspects of the psyche as distinct parts: the inner critic, the protector, the wounded child. This is beautiful and profound work, but this movement towards the internal, the connection to the external, has been lost. Just as the astronomer lost the soul, the psychologist often loses the cosmos, and we treat these internal parts as if they exist solely inside our skulls, disconnected from the rhythms of the universe. We have become hyper-individualized, thinking our problems and our patterns are ours alone, separate from the great clockwork of nature and the cosmos. So here is the definition I want you to hold for this course. And again, the link is down there at the bottom. Go ahead and head on over there to sign up for this course. I think it's going to be a great course. It's going to be 5 weeks long, one course each week for 5 weeks. And we're going to be taking the philosophical grounds that we're talking about here in this video and expanding on those and moving into a discussion on the 5 archetypes of Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus. So I think it's going to be really a great class. It's a phenomenal opportunity to get some really good, deep, solid discussions about astrology and about the archetypes of these planets and how we can connect with them in 2026 to really bring the year to its greatest potential for us. So when I talk about Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, or Uranus, or any planet, I'm not talking about the rock in space, the astronomy of that rock. I am, but not entirely. That's only part of the story. And I'm not talking about the part inside your head, the psychology, that's, individual for each person. I am also talking about that, but not entirely individualized. I'm talking about the unitary archetype of the phenomenon of the cosmos that is expressed through that which is without and that which is within. It's the astrological archetype. It is the union of these two. It is the connection between the external physical form and the internal psychological parts. It is the unitary space between them. So we have the two polar extremes. We have the outer, we have the inner, yes, but this archetypal space, this archetypal realm, being, whatever we want to call it, exists as the unitary space between them. And by studying the astrological planet, we're studying the bridge. We are refusing to choose between the inner and the outer. We're holding them both together. And this gives us a way to understand our internal landscape by looking at the map of the external sky. What is it that binds the external planet and the internal psyche together? The third component is time. We often think of time as just a measurement, seconds ticking by on a clock, but the ancients and the Hermeticists saw time as a quality. Time is the medium in which the archetype reveals itself. The external object, the planet, moves through space to mark time, and the internal experience of the psyche moves through life to experience time. Through the union of these two, the archetype becomes a rich expression of reality. When we study transits, which is the movement of the planets, we are studying the changing weather of the time. We are looking at the specific periodicity of the universe. We are connecting our small individual timeline with the massive cosmic timeline. This is what heals the sense of isolation. We realize we are dancing to a rhythm that is billions of years old. And this brings us to the inevitable question, the elephant in the room of every astrology class. Is it fate or is it free will? This is a polarity as universal as above, so below, or night and day. As humans, we experience free will. We make choices. We decide who to marry. We decide what job to take. We experience the consequences of our lives. It feels like we are in the driver's seat. And yet, when we step back and look at the larger picture, there is an undeniable sense of fate. We see cycles repeat. We see ourselves falling into the same ruts. We see that certain chapters of our lives were inevitable. In astrology, it is easy to fall in love with one side. You can become a fatalist, believing everything is written and you are helpless, or you can become obsessed with free will, thinking that you can manifest anything regardless of the season. On one hand, we have the watchers of the night calling out the prophecies, and on the other hand, we have the magicians that are enacting rituals to make manifest their desires. But the study of archetypes teaches us that it is not one or the other. It is the tension between them. We are fated to encounter certain energies. This is the weather, but we are free to choose how we navigate them, and that's the ship. So, again, the link is down at the bottom of the slides. Head on over, sign up for the course. It's going to be a great course starting January 7th. This is the day that Mars and Venus and the Sun are together in the same degree of the zodiac in Capricorn. They are 30 arc minutes apart or less. They are very tightly configured. It's going to be an incredible day. It's a great kickoff to the class. I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to having you there if you're interested in signing up. So if we're not predicting a fixed fatalistic future, what are we doing? I want you to think of this course not as a system of prediction, but as a system of optics. Think of a chart or a transit as a lens. Neither the lens nor the eye is the truth. The truth is what you see when you look through it. If I describe the quality of time being the Saturn lens, and that description helps you view your life with more clarity, if it helps you gain perspective on your struggles, then it is a useful lens. If looking through that lens doesn't help you find equilibrium, then you can discard it. There are other lenses that you can pick up. The lens of Mars, the lens of Jupiter, Pluto, Uranus. We are trying to find the right optic to view your circumstances. We are swapping out lenses to see the relative truth of your life more clearly. It's about utility, perspective, and clarity, not some sort of dogmatic prediction. And I'm not, trying to decry those people that do prediction, because I do know some astrologers who are fantastic at prediction, but that's not what we're talking about in this class. And I think that even for those that do great prediction, the reason why they're able to do that is because they come from a solid foundation of the philosophy and the archetypes. So why do we do this? Why do we bother with these lenses at all? The goal, if there is a goal, is equilibrium. Through studying the unitary archetype, we develop a capacity to reflect on our lives. We stop being reactive and start being reflective. When we can see that our personal crisis is actually part of a larger archetypal wave, like a Pluto transit, we stop taking it so personally. We stop thinking we are broken and realize we are in a season. This brings a profound sense of liberation. We are free from the entrapment of singularity, the trap of thinking we are alone, isolated, and chaotic. We find our place in the order of things. We develop a relationship with the universe that is based on understanding rather than fear. Again, the link is here at the bottom of the page. This is our last slide. And so please take a moment, head on over there if you haven't already. The course is going to be fantastic. And if you're just joining this midway through, you can listen to the philosophy that I've laid out at the beginning of this by rewinding. But this is the philosophical container for our course. This is the ground we stand on. We are going to move through the 5 specific cosmic catalysts that I've listed: Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus. In each class, we will do exactly what we discussed today. We will look at the external planet to understand the cycle. We will look at the internal experience to understand the feeling. We will stand in the middle in that unitary space to understand the archetype. We won't be doing math. We won't be getting lost in technical jargon. We will be exploring the story of your life through the mirror of the cosmos. I invite you to bring your curiosity, to bring your skepticism, your open heart. Let's begin this journey of remembering the unity that was never actually lost. So, thank you for listening to that. That is, like I was saying, that's some of the basic philosophy that we'll be discussing that ground of philosophy will be important to have a foundation for the class. So if you join the class and you haven't heard this video, I'm going to be recommending everybody in the class to watch this video, because it does contain some of the basic philosophical concepts that will be important for understanding the class and to get what I'm really trying to offer you out of that class. So again, really looking forward to seeing everybody that can join. I don't think there's any limit of capacity. They've got a very large Zoom room. This is Synchronicity University, so their infrastructure is great. They've got everything there. So just go ahead and sign up, and looking forward to connecting with you there. You can ask questions and answers during the Q&A phase of the course. And if you have questions about any of this philosophical direction, you can go ahead and put those in the comments below. Happy to connect with you on that as well. So yeah, I think that does it for today. The links are on the slides. You can go back to those. They'll be in the description below. So until next time, keep your eye on the sky and make a wish upon a star.